Yo, what's up, guys? Khordmaster here. So it is time to finally talk about the Ableton Move. So just for a little context, I had no idea this thing was coming out. There's a lot of videos online about it currently. When it got leaked a day or two before it was actually coming out, I was extremely excited about it. As someone who's currently sort of like learning how to use Ableton and loves mobile music, it seemed like a dream come true. And someone who really enjoys Ableton Note and much prefers using hardware over software, it seemed really like a dream come true. So I don't really have that many ties to Ableton, aside from the fact that like I did get Ableton 12 Suite for free, like the upgrade. I think it was just, I guess, the upgrade because I paid, I think, for, yeah, I did pay for the original one like years ago. But I've been like in meetings and stuff like that with some of the folks that work there, and I have a couple of connections, but I'm not at that, stage, I guess, with my content or with my artistry where I have a connection to be able to get products from them for free, per se, physical products. I say all that to say, I wasn't able to get one of these, and without having to pay for it. And I thought maybe I was going to be able to leverage a 30% artist discount, which is really generous of them, that I knew I had available for the Push 3, which I was and still kind of am on the fence about getting. More on that later. But the long and short, it was that the 30% discount wasn't available for this. And as you guys know, you've been watching my content, like I've been really trying to just do more with less, right? As of late, I've been selling a lot of gear, and just trying to be a lot more mindful with what I have in my surroundings in terms of music making, and it's been going really well with that. So that all being said, this was something that served a purpose, and it wasn't just like, oh, I need this because everyone else is talking about it or whatever the case, and I want to try it out. It was like, okay, as someone who's used Ableton Push 2 many years ago and really has fond memories on using that. And like I mentioned, has someone who really likes mobile music production, this was something that just made a lot of sense. So I didn't buy it. I was going to wait until perhaps next year when the artist discount thing was available, and maybe at that point, consider getting it. But I was doing a live stream not too long ago, and a friend of mine, who follows the channel, was in the live stream, and I mean, I shouldn't even say a friend. He is a friend now, but he's someone who followed my channel, and then we found out that we live near each other, and now, we text, and now we're cool, and all that stuff. He's a gear person as well, like me. And he purchased one of these, and he didn't open it yet. And he asked me if I wanted to check it out, and I'm like, this live stream is done. Shot over right to his house, hung out with him on his porch for a little bit, chatted for about 30 minutes, and he gave it to me. And I remember using it that day. I turned it on, and I kind of knew some of the things to do on here, like a little bit, work my way around it just from watching a couple of videos, but also kind of, being familiar with I have to always remember push, note, or move, right? With push 2, even though the workflow is quite dissimilar, but I had a blast using it, right, from jump. Like I just enjoyed using it, not having to work too hard to figure out how to get musical ideas started. And what I want to talk about is like just openly and just kind of casually some of my experiences using this so far, some of the things that I enjoyed about it, and some of the things that I hope to see improved with it. So I don't even have the list in front of me per se. I'm just going to kind of just talk, and just we'll kind of see how this goes. So using this, like I mentioned before, you're able to just grab it and just kind of get started straight away, which I really, really enjoy. And drums on here are a lot of fun to program. I love having the step sequencer on the bottom. I believe that the push does not have that, and it's, in my opinion, a little bit challenging to step sequence on the DAW on Ableton Live. Having to click the things and the draw tool and all that, like just being able to hit a drum pad and just tap where you want these to go, is really, really useful. Which I'm very much used to it with like what's sitting in front of me here, the Roland Phantom EX. So that's definitely a lot of fun. I love session view, right? So session view is a big thing for me. Even though I've been understanding arrangement view a little bit more, coincidentally, now is the time where I'm like excited about using arrangement view on Ableton because I have like better understanding of it, and I have templates set up and stuff like that. But now I'm kind of back into session view, which is interesting on a device like this because like being able to just kind of get ideas started and then just like quickly say, you know what, I don't like that drum pattern, let me just come over here and let me record a new one, and being able to like, you know, have this drum pattern match with this bass, with this piano, with this, like being able to remix and just get ideas started like that is very fun for me. It always has been. So I really enjoy that. I also really enjoy the fact that as soon as you load a project, it gives you 4 sounds right away, right? Drums, bass, I guess like keys, and then synth or pad or something like that. And so for me, that's something I would love personally to see come to Ableton. Like I'd love like to be able to have like, hey, when you launch a new project, like have the option at least, right? To be able to set a template maybe where it applies random presets. Like I think that's, for me, it's inspiring, especially on a device like this that's mobile. Now, thinking about some of the things about Push 2. When I was using Push 2, I remember loving it and having so much fun using it. But I also remember like saying to myself, as a piano player and a keyboardist, this is never going to be enough by itself to use. What do I mean by that? I'm so glad you asked. What I mean by that is like, even though drums are so fun to program on there, even though you have scale mode and you have all these things, the fact is that for me, doing anything melodic or anything non-drum related on something that's not a keyboard is not ideal for me. Okay, I'll say it again. Doing anything non-drum related on any piece of equipment that doesn't have a keyboard on it is not ideal for me. So what that proposes is like, in the case where I'm using a push, I would need also some type of MIDI controller or MIDI keyboard or something so I can use that to do my chords and do all the things that come naturally to me, rather than thinking like, oh, a major triad on push is this configuration, right? The middle or whatever it was. That was something that maybe as time goes on, maybe as I use this more, that might become a little bit more natural to me and stuff. But I say all that to say like, I kind of run into a similar thing with this. Like when I'm using this and I'm getting melodic ideas started, I'm still in the process of, getting familiar with the layout and all that kind of stuff. But I would always much rather, and I can do that technically, and I have done it, but connect a MIDI keyboard or a keyboard to be able to send MIDI data so I can play and not have to worry about, using pads to play, right? Which again, for me, it comes more natural. So to that point, I think the first night I had this, I connected this to my Nord piano upstairs. And how did I do that? I was sending audio from this into the Nord piano because I have a monitor in on there. And then I connected the MIDI right here to the Nord piano as well. And I was able, and I turned local control off on the Nord Piano 5. And then I was able to use the keyboard, the amazing keyboard on that piano, to control this and listen to it. And kind of, I enjoyed that a lot. I was like, all right, that's actually quite cool. And the ability to be able to, do that sometimes, right? Like maybe you don't always need a keyboard with this. Like yesterday, for example, I went to the cafe and I went there with the mindset of, wanting to just explore this and specifically wanted to explore sampling on this. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. But there's a lot more than meets the eye with this. Like I was watching a video about like, I think 7 unknown tips or whatever. And so being able to go in here and like step sequence, but then like nudge notes to give it a little bit more of a looser feel was something that I wouldn't have thought about because I don't know. I just wouldn't think to try doing that. But you can do that on here to kind of give it like a little bit less robotic of a feel. It also has like that groove thing where you could change like the swing a little bit on there, which is kind of cool. I will also say that like the stock sounds in Ableton are not necessarily my cup of tea. The sounds that are on here, of course, are stock sounds in Ableton. And it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like hit or miss, right? So for the music that I like playing, like I know when something sounds intuitive, or not intuitive, but something sounds inspiring for me to play. Like on my Nord piano that I referenced 4 times already, like when I go through sounds on there, those sounds and those presets are like awe-inspiring and fun to play and just dope. Here, most of the time, or some of the time, or whatever, I don't know, 50%, like sometimes these sounds that are automatically on here, and I'm like playing them as soon as you create a new set, I'm like, I don't know if I like these sounds. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm enjoying them. Let me actually turn this on for a sec. Um, so that is a thing, right? That's a thing where I've heard some people say the same who know about Ableton a lot, and they're like, oh no, the stock sounds. Yeah, I much prefer using a Omnisphere or plugins or whatever. And then I know some people who say like Ableton stock sounds are incredible. You just have to know how to tweak them and program them and stuff. So having knobs on here, is very inspiring, right? To be able to go in and change, or I don't know if inspiring is the word. It's just inviting, right? To go in and be able to change sounds and tweak them the way that you want them to sound and stuff. So that's all about getting more and more comfortable. When you turn this on, you see all the colors there, right? These are all like, you can't really hear it too well. I'm gonna talk about that in a second too. But these are all like your different projects that you have. I think these are the four. These are the four like stock projects, which I always think is good to have stock projects in something, so you could just get a feel for what it's capable of and stuff like that. So, right, you hit this, and then this is like, right. So this plays like the first section of the song, then over here. So it's a really really fun piece of equipment. Yeah, very very fun piece of equipment, and I would say that, yeah, 32 songs on here is like I think a good amount of songs for sure. I don't think, right, it's 8 by 4, I think, right? Yeah, it's a good amount. Like, you just get the idea started, you upload to cloud, and then you continue, figure out the workflow, how to save them, in Ableton Live and stuff like that, and then delete them from here, right? Because they're on there, or whatever, workflow kind of makes sense. I kind of think that whether this is a standalone device or a device that you create full projects on, I don't know the answer to that. I feel right now that this is most best suited, I mean, understandably, most best suited for people who have live and who want to get ideas started and then send them to live. That's how I'm going to be, using it, like moving forward and stuff like that. So that's definitely something to share. I also want to talk about like the built-in. It has a built-in speaker, which is important that it has it. Definitely important to have a built-in speaker for sure. Has a built-in mic. The speaker on here is not. It's not. It's not a good speaker. Like for the size and weight of this compared to say the OP1 Field, for example. Like I feel like the speaker on the OP1 Field might be better than this, or I don't know, maybe for the size of it or the expectations of it or something. But the fact that this has like weight to it, like I kind of feel like the speaker would be better in something like this personally, but it's not. And that's, it is what it is. But again, I think having one is very, very important to have a speaker in here for sure. Choke groups. So I was messing with sampling yesterday, and I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed sampling on here a lot. There's still things that I need to explore, but what I was doing was connecting the audio in here to my phone, and I have this app called Radio with 5 O's. It's like a world map with like all the different music from across the world, different decades. It's the best kept secret ever. It's amazing. And I was doing kind of what DiBiase was doing. I was watching, actually, the person who lent me this sent me a link to DiBiase's live stream not too long ago, and he was sampling on it. And he was cooking up some crazy stuff, and I was like, wow, it's pretty good. That's very inspiring. So he was just laying out a jump track and then sampling and that type of thing, right? But what I was doing is I went in here and I created a choke group, a choke drum kit, and as soon as you plug in, you can like monitor, right, the sound coming in straight away, and then you could sort of tap when you want the part of that sample to be applied to the pad. Very, what is that called, lazy chop or whatever it's called. You just tap it, right? And it was fun, right, because you have all this everything there. Now, I think that it would be nice to eventually be able to change the pitch on all, and he said this in his stream too, but change the pitch on all of the pads afterwards, right? So if you do that and then you're like, all right, you want to pitch shift everything down or something like that, you have to go tap the pad and then turn this knob and tap, turn, that type of thing. So that's definitely important. This might just be like a sampling, just regular thing to be aware of. But as I was doing that yesterday, I was noticing that like when I went to like the next section, like it was maybe on this track and I went here and I was like, all right, I want to continue, a different pattern for the sample, or a different, like pattern, I guess, for the sample. And I want to record it. The moment you say change the start time or the pitch or something on one of the pads that was just used for this, it's going to be affected on the previous one that you recorded naturally, I guess, right? That's the whole idea about it. So you kind of want to, I guess, get the sample, the 16 pads exactly tuned to the way that you like them for the song, and then plan to not touch them again, I guess, because you're going to be recording to all these and you don't want anything that you previously recorded to be affected, if that makes sense. But I think that might be an obvious thing for sampling. I don't know. So that's definitely important to note too. There's also this like shift button down here. So, a lot of people have been talking about like a whole shift, like it's kind of hard to do like all together, but like all the way on the left is like your project page. The second one on the bottom, like these down here, that's like things that light up, as you can see. So these are like sub menu type things. So the second one is your settings. Then you have, I don't even know what that third one is. Let me see. Oh, the third one is like your settings for quantization. Oh, count in on, step grid, auto load on. Okay, so there's like some other settings. Okay. Then you have like your tempo, right? Then you have metronome on, off. Then you have your groove amounts. Then you have chromatic, F major, then full velocity on, and then that's it. So there's a lot of things here that have nothing applied to them. So you could expect and anticipate that there's going to be more and more features coming here. I think that would be the case. I've seen a lot of new features come to Ableton Note over the year, 2 years or so that I've been beta testing it. So I think they're absolutely going to continue supporting it. And so like when I talk about sampling on here versus sampling on Ableton Note, for example, because like in my mind, when I was using this, I was like, okay, what are the reasons why this is needed if you already have and use Note, right? Like that was in my head, and it still kind of is, to be quite honest. So certainly the sampling aspect, right? The sampling is in, I'm going to talk about, I have this right next to me. I still haven't even dove into like fully understanding this and like using it and having as much fun as I want to have with it. But I'll probably do a comparison video at some point soon. But I just watched a video on some things about this with regards to like, I think that sampling on here, like there's a tempo detect thing that I had no idea. And I think that could be pretty transformative. We'll talk about that like later once I experiment with it a little bit more. But all in all, I'm enjoying the device. I think that's what's important. I think getting like I remember getting the SP404, okay? Because I got it from Zounds. They sent it to me to kind of check out and stuff. Didn't have to pay for it or anything. And I just remembered like being so confused at how to do anything on it. Like I got it and it was like it was an absolute foreign workflow. Like I had no clue what was happening. And at that time in my life, I wasn't really interested in learning something new. I just wanted to have fun and just play a musical instrument, right? And that's part of this whole experience, right? It's not like it shouldn't be stressful. Like, oh man, I need to wake up. I need to like study. Sometimes that is the case. Like I woke up early this morning and I needed to study music, and I started, practicing, Claire de Lune by Debussy. And it was fun, and it was intense, and it was all good. But sometimes you just want to have fun, with your music and just kind of let loose a little bit. So that's where I'll leave it with this. Overall, like I said, I'm enjoying it a lot. It's inspiring to use. I think the battery is quite good on here. I haven't had really any issues with the battery life or anything like that. And yeah, shout out to Ableton. It's like I said, like being in the cafe yesterday and just like shutting everyone else out, and I was just like in a zone. I actually recorded a little bit of it with my DJI camera. I was in a zone with like the sampling and stuff like that, and it was just a fun time. So that's what we'll leave this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any specific questions about it, definitely let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to address them to the best of my ability. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Definitely get yourselves subscribed on the channel if you aren't already. And if you wouldn't mind, check out channel memberships on the channel as well. It's a great way to support the channel. And it's also a place where I'm going to be continuing to share a lot of other content, exclusive content. So definitely check that out. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.